Coming to you live from the heart of Tyson's Corner, Virginia. It's Tuesday Morning Live with your hosts, Bryan McNamara and Bill Bolton.
Welcome back, everybody. Another exciting episode of Tuesday Morning Live. I am Bill Bolton. My cohort here is always with me, Mr. Bryan McNamara.
Hey, Bill.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. It's great to be back on the show. What are we talking about today?
We've got an exciting guest. I think we have to step into something right before we introduce our guest, though, don't we?
That's right. Well, I was talking about more specifically the topic of today's discussion.
Oh, we're going to talk about one of my favorite things ever, Bryan. Cybersecurity, cyber liability. I can talk all day about this stuff. I'm super pumped about this guest. He's fun.
That's right. But before we talk about the guest and introduce him, let's go ahead and give a shout out to the people that pay the bills on the show, the sponsors, Brand Ready Media. If you're looking for high quality video production to market your business, get in touch with the guys at Brand Ready Media. And BB Insurance. If you don't have business insurance for your company, then you're exposing yourself to a huge liability. We've got a fantastic guest this week. We're going to be talking to none other than Craig Chapman from Gap Strategies Group. They provide the experience and expertise of select senior business and former federal executives to assist other executives to identify gaps and challenges on topics related to strategy, processes, leadership growth, culture, cyber, and human risk to enable accelerated transformative change and innovation. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Craig Chapman.
Good morning, guys. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Glad to have you.
Bill, did anybody tell you that you look a little like Ted Cruz?
Constantly. Yeah. Lately I've gotten Zelensky every so often. But yeah, I get Ted Cruz a whole lot. Thank God I've got a better voice than he does. So one of the first things that you brought to our attention, and by the way, thanks for the conversation last night. We seem to be on the same page about quite a few things. But you did mention, and this is actually the name of our show today. It's, this is cybersecurity is more, this fascinated me. It's more of a business problem than a technology problem. What exactly does that mean? How can you describe that to the layman?
Sure. So I've been more on the business side of conversations for the better part of my career in sales and sales strategy. But, when I came across cybersecurity and really dug into the foundation of it, what I realized, and it's just my nature anyway, look for root cause, look for the gaps in everything where there seems to be a misalignment between thinking and actions. And obviously we've got a lot of challenges in cyber risk. But what I realized was when you peel away the technology, the cyber risk is the foundation of cyber risk really has to do with people. The technology is an artifact of what people create. So when I talk with executives and they're challenged with not understanding technology and not understanding all these things about threats, advanced and persistent threats, and Trojans and phishing attack, all these technology terms, when you peel it all back, everything about cyber risk has to do with somebody either maliciously or by accident creating an opportunity for someone to take advantage of something else. And the consequences could be financial. They could be lost information. They could be downtime. And when you think of those consequences are ultimately the responsibility of the business executives, right? In the case of Edward Snowden, here was a gentleman who was highly cleared through multiple federal government processes. He worked for Booz Allen Hamilton, which is a well-known, very credible, very well-respected vendor to the government, federal government and commercial government. But what they missed was the content that he came across that ultimately triggered his desire to forego national security because it felt uncomfortable for him. That was a people issue. That had nothing to do with technology. And quite frankly, because he was on the inside, he then came up with workarounds to overcome the security defenses that his government client had in order to walk away with troves of national security information that now make him target number one on a global hit list of insider threats.
So we need to blame the HR director.
Exactly.
The whole thing is the HR department. Okay.
If you're the CEO of Booz Allen, that's what you're thinking. It wasn't my fault. It was the HR director.
You know, a lot of people, though, like I think that you were saying earlier, a lot of people, employees, they're not really as actively engaged. It's more of a mistake issue, isn't it?
It's most, as a matter of fact, yeah, I appreciate you looking at that one facet, because there's a term in the technology industry called insider threat. And that effectively means that you've got people in your environment, either employees or contractors or somebody who's been trusted by your organization to do certain things, have access to certain information. And that insider threat, like I said, it can be implicated from a malicious or a mistake-prone set of conditions. For instance, when they come into your organization or they're doing work, then anything they do can result in an exploit, a hack, a risk being brought into your organization. In the case of Edward Snowden, let's say, he was introduced to certain types of documentation that made him feel uncomfortable to the point where he gave up his interest in national security. In the case of the Target stores, if everybody remembers years ago, the Target store's credit card system was hacked into. That actually came through the heating and air conditioning vendor that was monitoring the heating and air conditioning systems across the Target stores. And because heating and air conditioning systems are connected onto the same networks that run IT, that run the point of sale swipe systems, those hackers, all they had to do was get into the heating and air conditioning company. It was a trusted vendor. No fault of theirs. There were just mistakes in the way that was set up, so that the hacker came in through the vendor and eventually, got to the network that got to the point of sale swipe card systems that led into the database that had tens of millions of credit card systems and our privacy data. So from the moment you wake up in the morning, anything that's in your environment that is connected to electricity and digital chips, they're all a threat, either by mistakes that we make or by somebody being able to connect into your environment. And I mean, it's a topic that we could talk about for a couple of hours, but I face
there's a million different examples of it too.
I'm sorry?
It happens constantly. And so a lot of the people that will be listening to this, they're not the Targets, they're not the Bank of Americas out there. They're really small businesses. And you and I agree on this wholeheartedly, that that is low-hanging fruit. Tell us your perspective is that, about that. And also, what is the correct method in order to protect your small business? Because these things are coming for you.
So small business has a particularly unique set of conditions that are really due to lack of resources, right? I mean, so as a business owner, as an executive of any size business, you tend to push the responsibility of securing your risk onto somebody who's technically capable. And that's why I say cyber risk is more of a business problem than technology. For small businesses, the problem they face is they typically wear the hats of multiple people in an organization, from HR to sales to executive leadership to financing. If they push that problem off to an IT person who they typically can only afford to have maybe a few people on that team, if any, the problem is there's so much going on in cyber technology that you don't have a big enough budget in small business, you don't have big enough budget. So my recommendation is the best you can do is mitigate the risk by going to maybe a managed service provider at a monthly expense or an annual expense where they've got a team of people that are all focused on all the same problems. They're all collaborating. So that's your risk mitigation strategy technically, but you also need to have cyber risk insurance for the eventual exploit, because it is going to happen. You can't avoid it. So instead of trying to figure out how to defend it yourself, then you outsource to teams of people who can do it for you. And in terms of cyber risk, they're going to pay the losses that are eventually you're going to face, because otherwise it means you're going to end up going out of business at a rate of roughly $2.5 million per exploit. You can't afford to not have somebody else mitigate that risk for you.
Risk transfer. That's right. Transfer. Let somebody else pay for it. Yeah, just the notification costs alone could crush you.
It's a very scary topic. As a small business owner, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt, Brian.
No problem. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's a significant problem, and it's one that oftentimes, for small business executives, it seems so overwhelming that oftentimes they'll turn their back on it, or they'll talk to friends, or what are you doing about it? In small business meetings, and that's really collaboration is also another risk mitigation strategy. I reach out to the businesses in our community all the time, both big and small, and the cyber guys, to try to get everybody together to collaborate on these issues, because without collaboration, there's no way you can possibly think about all the different threats that are represented to your business. And while at the same time, you've got to keep that business going. You've got to sell more. You've got to bring in more revenue to offset your other expenses. So, it's a community of many solving these individual problems. And, the average person has no idea what's going on with the Russians, with organized crime, with the Chinese. There are so many people out there, trying to take advantage of the U.S. and the people who live here and the wealth that we represent. So many different areas.
So, that you brought up a really good point, and I've had this conversation with quite a few people. I want to see what your take is on it. We're already in the mess. I mean, and that's what the discussions that I've had with people, from insurance underwriters to other people in the cyber liability world or cybersecurity world. The mess is already here. However, mentioning, Russia and China and everything that we have happening right now in the Ukraine, do you see an uptick in the number of, potential compromised data or data centers or companies? Do you see any change in the future?
Yeah, it's only going to get worse.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's unfortunate, but it's true. Yes.
Well, I mean, when you think about it, when you look back at history, and obviously the history is a great teacher of the future. Defenses have been created for all different types of attackers across history. And you and I were talking about this last night. There was a time where, before the advent of gunpowder, castles, civilizations built castles. They built defenses of bigger walls, thicker walls, higher, whatever, right? Different types of weaponry. Well, it's the creativity of humans. It doesn't matter what defense you create. Our human creativity will find a way to offset whatever defense you create, which is, so when we got to the nuclear era, the powers that be that have nuclear weapons decided, on a strategy of mutually assured destruction, right? We've got big bombs, you've got big bombs. So let's just agree that if you launch, we're going to launch, and the world is all going to end in a nanosecond. And it's not much different today with cyber warfare. The difference is that our adversaries, they don't want to destroy our culture. They want what we have, right? We are literally the most successful society in history for a number of different reasons, because we're an aggregation of people from around the world. right? People want what we have. They don't like the way we're constantly, the number one player in the world, so they don't like it. They want what we have. It's just human nature. That's why I say it's a people problem. So if we just step back and look at what we're, the progress that we're making throughout history, we have to realize that everything is a threat. We can't live in the world we used to live in, that, we could just lock our doors and turn our computers off, because it doesn't matter. There is always going to be some vulnerability that somebody wants to take advantage of, right? Whether it's phishing emails, right? My wife was a subject of a phishing email, and, she works for a cybersecurity company. It doesn't have to do with what you work with. We have to get smarter on being the target of somebody that's out there, right? All you have to do is, there's documentaries all the time on romance scams, right? On you getting a call from or an email from a company that tells you that your car warranty is about to run out. Do not click on any link in an email or a text or anything else that you don't exactly know who it's coming from. Never do.
I get that one on a daily basis. My warranty is out. It's like, well, it has been for a long time. It's an old car. Like, stop it.
I have advice. One easy thing you can do. This got somebody that I know recently. If you get a notification or a text message on your phone or an email from, let's say, Amazon or some company that you do business with on a regular day, might be your insurance company, and says, "Oh, there's a problem with your account. Somebody just bought a computer on your account." Don't call the number they're providing in the email or the text. Go ahead and close it, delete it, get on your computer, find an independent phone number to the actual company and call them directly and ask about it.
Correct.
That's 100% correct.
Because
sometimes I go to the extent of actually taking a screenshot. If it comes on my phone, I'll take a screenshot and I'll send it to the cyber division of the FBI, because for them it's a chain of evidence. It helps them in law enforcement.
That's actually a really good idea. I've never thought of that before.
Well, that actually touches on.
Correct.
Yeah, it touches on another topic of collaboration. The government is constantly reaching out for us to collaborate with them on cyber events that happen inside our environment, and the business community is largely reluctant to do that, because they think the minute they let the federal government into their business, then there's all types of things that could be exposed, good, bad, or indifferent. It's just a difficult or an awkward relationship sometimes. But unfortunately, we're at the point in time where government has resources that the industry and consumers don't have, and we have to start doing a better job of collaborating and figuring out a way. And that's one of the areas that we touch on quite a bit with our work.
Well, if the federal government stops being so stupid, then I would, I'd go ahead and help out a little bit more.
We all can't work for the federal government. They've got, they got to stop sooner or later. People have to do their own thing, right?
Absolutely. And you know what? We don't want to, I'll jump on board with that. We don't want to work for the government. They've got their own processes. It's an entirely different world. But I absolutely am an advocate for trying to find better ways to collaborate with them to help government be a better business and a better provider of the services they can provide.
I can agree with that.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in that myself. So, speaking of that, where do you start doing that? How does that work?
Well, I mentioned one with the FBI. There's another organization called InfraGard that was started by the FBI decades ago. They actually, are a collaborative environment that works with all types of businesses on the issue of cyber risk. For me personally, getting into the community where I live in Loudoun County, I'm advocating, because Loudoun County has such a unique combination of the largest number of data centers in the world. 70% of the internet traffic passes through our data centers.
Wow.
It's just enormous. And when you just go down the road and you see warehouse building after warehouse building, realizing that all the big companies, all the entities in the world have their servers there for internet capacity. It's ridiculous, but we've got to collaborate. And Loudoun County has a combination of technology, finances, government, academia, and the big tech companies to do a great job of collaboration. So I've been pushing for a Loudoun Cyber Center of Excellence for the last couple of years. And if we can get the right thought leaders to get together, I think we can really be a super valuable resource to the United States, if not the rest of the world, with the kind of information we can generate.
So a Center for Cyber Excellence, is that what you said?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of coined the terms. Everybody has a Cyber Center of Excellence, and it's really big with the universities these days. But the
Why don't we
challenge
have
is,
one at Loudoun County? I mean, that's the fact that we don't have that already is kind of shocking. We are the data center capital of the world. We should have something like that.
you would think it'd be very common sense kind of notion, but I haven't found one yet. Government agencies have theirs. Like I said, many universities have theirs, but I absolutely agree that there needs to be that combination of government, universities, even the high school, the high school communities. Kids, our society needs to start learning about these things at a very, very early age. And if we don't collaborate on it, we're all just pecking at the problem piece by piece. It'll never work like that.
How do you get kids involved with something that's not a video game?
Starting with a video game.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
my daughter's playing Roblox or whatever it's called, and try to influence her through her video game, I guess. But
that's, like I said, it gets back to the issue of people. So you can start to, I hesitate to use the word program people through the things that interest them most, right? When we were growing up, it was all commercials. Our society has been shaped by the commercial business. Nowadays, it's shaped by the internet. So videos that you see, games that you play, there's almost always a subliminal messaging or training or programming to a lot of those content pieces that go out there. Right?
Okay, I got a huge idea. We got to make a show like the A-Team for the 80s, but it's for today, and these guys deal with cybersecurity.
I love it.
And every week it'll be a new small business, a family business, where they come in and they still have to fire machine guns.
I was going to say they still have to run through walls and blow shit up. I mean,
right, but they're just doing cybersecurity.
Isn't that called what's the popular war game? I don't even know. My kids play it all the time, right? With that
Call of Duty.
Call of Duty. Thank you very much.
Call of Duty.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. Could you imagine that you're in a virtual reality, and your virtual reality is the adversaries are all cyber adversaries?
Right? Yeah.
You're about to turn your light on, and oops, your light goes on, but it just set off your fire extinguisher. Right.
Right.
So come up with a series of different problems, and how do you solve the problems? There is so much innovation out there that the kids come up with that it can lead into multiple shows. Bryan, you could have a series just based on that alone.
I'm already doing it right now. Josh, go ahead and get that copyright written down. We've got it. You heard it here first, folks.
I won't even charge you for the consulting on that, Bryan.
Excellent. You're going to be on. You're coming in. We're all in on this deal.
That's right. I think we own the rights to it now. Thanks, Josh. Thanks for writing that down. So, Craig, if there's any, last thoughts you have, anything that you want to talk about, specific to your business or any other project that you are working on right now, please enlighten us, because we're about to wrap this bad boy up.
Sure. So for my business, like I said, we like to talk with other executives who, they've got their job on a daily basis, and oftentimes they don't have a third party to turn to. So we engage organizations and executives through meetup systems. Yeah, but we've got some tremendously talented people that have worked in Fortune 1 companies called the federal government for decades. They have an enormous amount of intellectual property, and I've got 35 years of experience myself. Technology doesn't have to be the obstacle that holds back an executive in figuring out how to help their business run better, but also how to contribute towards the community and even towards national security, believe it or not. National security is not a military issue. It's not a federal government issue. It's an issue that faces us, everybody in this country, every single day. And we could have a show just on that. But I encourage people to just go to the internet, look for people like myself who are open to having these conversations, and don't be sold on anything, right? There is no single bullet. And if you have a cyber people on your team, what they've developed, trust me, it can be defeated with enough time and patience of the adversary. So always be open to opportunity, always be open to the ability to do things better, but always look for the root cause. At the end of the day, look for the root cause. That's going to be the way to solve your problem. It's not going to be solving some little threat that came up the other day like a phishing attack. That's just one little issue in terms of the bigger problem.
That's some great advice, Craig. Great advice for our listeners. And Bill, I think it's about that time. Where are we going to go now?
I don't know, man. I'm starting to get hungry. Who wants endless breadsticks and salad?
Endless.
We're going to the Olive Garden, the most fancy place in Tyson's.
All right, till next time, folks. We'll see you later.